Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Zayas. It's been a minute, and I just wanted to kind of record and tell you more or less what happened yesterday. Yesterday, we had a very, very good card with top rank boxing. Bob Arum put on a pretty good show. And yes, it's not the biggest fighting the biggest fighters, right? But it was a good card. You can't lie. You had the return of Shakur Stevenson, right, versus a very, very, very rugged opponent. You also had Jose Pedraza versus Team Hammerhands Julian Rodriguez. Now, just to get started, Shakur Stevenson. Look, Shakur Stevenson, hands down, is one of the most talented fighters in the 130-pound division. You can't deny that the kid is all class. He's a slick southpaw that, if you look back at his resume, you'll see that he is the goods, right? Silver medalist, Olympic silver medalist, lost to a very, very rugged and tricky Robezi Ramirez. I know a lot of people remember that fight. After he lost, you remember Stevenson crying, and even in the build up to this fight, they had mentioned that. But Shakur Stevenson has done nothing but continue to win. And that's all he can do. He's a young, up and coming prospect. But at this moment, I have to say, he's one of the most talented fighters in the world. But before I touch on that, I want to go over the Jose Pedraza fight. Jose Pedraza, everyone remembers him from his performance against Lomachenko, where he did pretty well. You remember him beating Ray Beltran. And little by little, beat Javier Molina, kind of fought his way back into the limelight in the 135-pound division. However, there was an up and coming prospect named Julian Rodriguez. Team Hammerhands had never really had that really big name on his card, on his resume rather, yet. And in this fight, that's exactly what it posed. You had Jose Pedraza, who is a very formidable opponent for anyone. He switches, really, really strong jab from both ways, has a really good left hook, and on any given day can give anybody issues. And look, in this fight, I'm sorry, Team Hammerhands. Julian, you stepped up too fast, too soon, and you saw the ramifications of that. Unfortunately, you were eating jabs all night. That eye got swollen, and unfortunately for you, you pulled the faux pas in boxing. You cannot quit on the stool, and we had another instance where you quit. And I know people are going to say, oh, Billy Joe Saunders, other people of that nature have quit before. But in this one, I can't lie to you. It just looked like his eye was swollen. Yeah, he couldn't see, but continued to try to fight on. It didn't look like you had a orbital fracture or anything of that nature. And I understand the fact that, you know what, if you can't see, your corner stops it. Cool. But in this one, it just looked like you ate a jab and your eye was swollen and you chose not to fight. But again, we don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Maybe he does have an orbital fracture, and then I'll apologize and say that. But in this one, I don't know how I feel about it. Honestly, the kid just kind of quit. And unfortunately for him, he's going to carry that stigma around. You already see online, Josue Vargas and a bunch of other fighters are calling him out for the stoppage. I mean, we don't know what's wrong. I personally don't know what's wrong. And unfortunately, you're in the fight business, buddy. You're gonna have to own up for it. It's it's an unfortunate reality when you step in the ring. You can't quit, especially when you didn't try to go back out. There was no arguing. There was no like, oh, why'd you stop the fight? It just looked like this. You said, hey, I can't see it, and they stopped it. And again, I respect everyone that gets in the ring, and I understand that. But at the same time, you got to realize you're a fighter. You have to at least show that you're trying to go back out there to finish the fight and fight on. But good win for Jose Pedraza. And truthfully, I'm very, very happy for him. Pedraza has fought the best of the best. And say what you want, he's been in there with Lomachenko. He's been in there with Tank Davis. He's been in there with a lot of killers, Tevin Farmer. The list goes on and on. The guy comes, brings the noise, he brings his best abilities. And again, last night, he showed Hammerhands why he's still around. And maybe he fights his way back into prominence. That 135-pound division is so stacked and it just keeps getting more stacked. So I just wanted to touch on that fight really quick. But the main event, you had Shakur Stevenson again. I mentioned all his pedigree. I mentioned all that. But he fought against someone that truthfully, in my opinion, was a pretty decent opponent. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the fight we wanted to see. It wasn't Shakur Stevenson against even a Jamel Herring or anyone of that nature. But Naktakila brought the noise. He brought his ferocity. You saw that he was coming to win, and he had a very awkward style. He was long, he was tall, and one thing I have to say about this fight is Shakur Stevenson is showing his number one mastery of distance. I love the way this kid constantly is always on balance. His feet and hands are in sync. It's almost like he's on a train track when he's moving around because he's so balanced, never loses a step, never gets his feet out of whack. And he's so precise with every little mini step, every little pivot, every single parry. That front hand he has, possibly, I'm going to sit here and say it. He has the best controlled jab from the southpaw position in the game. That front hand is just amazing. He was controlling the distance against someone who was superior in terms of height and length, and he was able to neutralize it with superior movement, footwork, etc. That left hand he had was sharp. It was like a dagger down the middle, kept stabbing him to the body with it. And he even caught him on a nice check right hook that knocked down Jeremiah early in the fight. Only thing I got to say, and it's not even a knock against Shakur Stevenson, it's the kid dominated for 12 rounds. Could he have possibly got him out of there? Yeah. But again, these kids have to stop apologizing. I'm talking about the Devin Haney's of the world, the Teofimos of the world, the guys that are really, really good master boxers, right? When you shut someone down, doesn't matter. It's not your job to make the fight closer so people can think that you're struggling and, oh, it was an exciting fight. If you're dominating someone that's a power puncher that can potentially knock you out, and that's what Jeremiah was, he knocked out plenty of his opponents. And in this fight, you saw he demonstrated that power. Shakur Stevenson got touched with one right hand before, and I was like, oh shit, that was a good right hand. And he felt it. That's why he was cautious. He continued to box, and that's what he needs to do. Shakur Stevenson, someone's going to have to bring it out of you in order for you to show it. Don't just show it for the sake of showing it, for the clout, for whatever. I'm this killer. Don't buy into that narrative. You already saw what happened to Devin Haney when Devin Haney decided to stand his ground against Jorge Linares, make it a little more fun fight, sit in the pocket, and bang, Jorge Linares caught him with a shot. And then all the critics came out of the woodwork and decided to just talk shit about how your performance, oh, you got rocked. If that was so and so, that would have killed you. And if you didn't learn from that lesson, learn, dominate. You dominated. Okay, you weren't happy with your performance. Why? You beat him 120, 107. I mean, how much more can you want to win by? Right? You had 12 rounds plus the knockdown. You won 13 rounds according to the scorecards. So I really, really wouldn't worry about it. You had a fantastic performance. Do I want to see you finally step up and fight for a real title? Yeah, go fight Jamel Herring. I think that's the perfect fight for you next. I think it's time. Shakur Stevenson needs to elevate his competition in order to see a better version of Shakur Stevenson, even though this version is really, really good. He just needs to do this against better opposition, I want to say, even though this kid, not Tequila, wasn't that bad. He was tall. You saw he had some cool little tricks where he was keeping Shakur at bay. And if Shakur could have got him out of there, he would have, but he also would have had to step into the gunslinger's range. And you already know how that can what can happen when you do that. Perhaps he gets dropped, and then what are we talking about? Oh, Shakur Stevenson's exposed, blah, 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 blah. And I don't want that for Shakur. Shakur's a really, really good young prospect who is a star in the making. Just let it happen. The kid is really, really young. Like, you got to remember these kids are really, really young and they're going up. So I thought the Shakur Stevenson fight was pretty good. And another young prospect I saw was Xander Zayas, who blew out his opponent. Wasn't really a close fight. I mean, the kid touched him here and there, but I'm really, really happy for Xander Zayas and Mr. Centennial at a Sweat Boxing Gym. You guys had a great showing. But overall, I think the fights were pretty good. I want to see Shakur step up. I think Jamel Herring is the perfect fight. I know we want to see Oscar Valdez, but truthfully, I think Shakur Stevenson could beat Oscar Valdez. I just don't know if you look at who Oscar Valdez has fought, he did just come off of beating Burchelt. He has fought, in my opinion, the more quality opponents, even at moving from down. He's been in bigger fights. So I could see how he has more belts, he has more experience, he's been in bigger shows. The A side, B side thing may be an issue, but I think you fight Jamel Herring, get your title. Jamel Herring is a formidable champion. I think he'll beat Jamel Herring, and then you make a better case for yourself for that Oscar Valdez fight. Get some more experience, step up, and then step up. Who knows? I think Shakur Stevenson could beat anyone in the world any given day in his division, and that's because he has supreme boxing skills, and that balance is just world class. And truthfully, Shakur Stevenson is a bad boy, and I really do expect him to take over the 130-pound division. I don't really see anyone that can mess with Shakur. Will it be close? Maybe. But Shakur is just the best in the division. I want to see him fight better opposition, of course, so we can actually build that pedigree. Thank you so much. This is the episode for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, feel free to smash that like button. Feel free to subscribe. If you're on Instagram, follow me at Good Boxing Podcast. We're back, and I can't wait to record. I have a bunch of cool stuff. Just been really busy with training, work, and been doing some tournaments with some fighters and stuff. And I'm really, really bad at multitasking. So I kind of go tunnel vision on a lot of things. And yeah, I just didn't have the energy or bandwidth to record. But back. See ya. Enjoy.